talking about like innovation, where do you see, think about, like you said, AdMob's pretty, I'll use the word rudimentary. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but we'll use that for the time being. But where do you see technology innovations heading in the app monetization space? What do you think, where are things going?
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of innovation. Like Google's heavily invested in building out both AdMob and Ad Manager, again, just for like different customer portfolios. I see things getting a lot more sophisticated with regards to audiences and lifetime value tracking. So right now, especially in AdMob, like there's no audience capability. So you can't, serve only to, specific subset of people. You can do that on Ad Manager. But if you wanted to be able to serve to women in their 30s in South Florida and have a really hyper-targeted ad campaign, I think there's going to be a lot more of that happens with intention, like as ad quality improves, and of course, depending on the vertical and app that you're working within. I do see an increase in audience, an increase in advertisers relying upon audience data and paying more, especially as privacy becomes like a much larger deal. I think having some type of intention and targeting around your advertising leads to a lot higher performance, better experience, more contextually relevant ad. And then I also see there being an improvement in terms of like our lifetime value tracking and a lot of those tools. I think that we have kind of the base layer down now, but especially if you're kind of create a new app in the space, there's typically either organic installs, but like user acquisition is a main channel for people to get the app out into the space, and being really clear with like our analytics tools around, what type of cost per install do you have to pay for in order to generate what return on user? How many days do they need to spend in your app? And how can you get really granular in that so you can kind of like make it a well-oiled machine? I think a lot of the larger companies and especially both with regard to gaming and non-gaming have built out teams to really do that type of stuff on their own. But I think that Google's tools are going to be able to showcase that to you very easily and allow you to kind of like just inject money into it and see what kind of comes out, as opposed to having to monitor each step of the process so closely.
And you were spot. You almost gave a layup to Nick. I know I'm going to ask him the same question. And, most of our time is spent around data and analytics, and Google has so many different products, but again, it's like anything else, to connect these things is incredibly difficult. So Nick, take it away. Where do you see technology innovation going?
So much of what we're focused on, and this goes across web and app, is incorporating data from as many sources as possible into a huge warehouse, building the analytics capabilities, but also the internal data science capabilities that allow us to really understand the heck out of that data and to use it to drive the machine learning algorithms that are really allowing us to put a lot of pressure on buyers. That's a lot of what we do these days, is we find opportunities to put pressure on buyers so that publishers' inventory is commanding the kinds of CPMs that it ought to command, to keep advertisers from coming in and sniping inventory at rates that are too low. We want to make sure the publishers are always getting paid what they should get paid. So I love being able to leverage the rich analytics that we get from Google Ad Manager. I'm fully expecting there's going to be more capabilities in that regard longer term, and there's going to be tighter integrations between Google Ad Manager and other analytics capabilities that Google has, like Firebase. I think we're going to see more and more convergence of those capabilities, and Playwire is going to be doing a lot of leveraging of that. That's especially important going back to the audience piece that Robyn was talking about. The technology to do audience is changing because on the webside of the death of the cookie, because of the need to try to create unification of information across devices and yet do this in a way that respects privacy. Google's an essential partner for us in making that happen. And audience data it's taking on more meaning these days. It's not just kind of the traditional audience buy, it's also that the industry is really recognizing the importance of equity in advertising. We've been doing a lot at Playwire recently with D&I initiatives, and I'm excited to see that expand over into app as well, and to be finding good techniques to allow us to really discover the information that's necessary in order to make sure that advertising is applied in an equitable fashion. So that's another area where I see innovation going. The last thing the last thing I'd mention is to go back to the SDK thing again. I already touched on this before, but still it's really important. I think that we're going to see, as we have more mediation partners transitioning out of the current way of doing bidding and into the real-time bidding, we're going to see the lack of a need for them to have these separate SDKs. We're going to have that transparency in their bidding, and that's just going to create easier integrations for publishers, less bugginess when it comes to advertising technology, fewer releases that they need to make, and more ability to manage everything that's going on with bidding in a centralized way.
I'm going to just add one more thing, and I'm going to sum it up into one word, and that's transparency. The way I look at app today is almost where web was 10 years ago, where you had ad networks literally charging whatever they wanted and selling it to the publisher for whatever they would accept. And there was a massive delta in between. That is actively happening right now. I can tell you right now, any mediation partner you're working with, they're going to bid. So partner 1 gets 10 cents, partner 2 is 12 cents. They're going to win it at 14 cents, but they might have sold it for 50 cents. That's a problem. That is a conflict of interest. And I feel what's happening now, what Playwire is doing, is bringing transparency to the whole ecosystem. And really what it's going to do is kind of what header bidding did for web, where basically think about how many ad networks there are now. 0. Why? Because of transparency. Header bidding showed we're going to let people bid. And if you peel back the layer of the onion and there's no value there, then these companies go away. And I feel like that's what's going to happen, in my opinion, in the near future.